I have Travis Humphreys on today from Gold River Gallery. He trades, he frames, he does it all. Pretty much a framer.
Yes.
And if you don't believe it, show him your hands, Travis, if you don't mind. We were just talking about it. It's like, he goes, I go, well, at least you got all your fingers. He goes, well, this one's got a rod in it.
It does. This one got run through a compressor once.
Oh, wow.
So I got a couple of battle wounds.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it's people don't think about it, but it's a very hands-on, hard job, right?
Yeah.
And you've been doing this for how long? How long have you been in the framing business?
Oh, since 1993.
Yeah,
Probably 91.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Over 30 years, 31 years. Yeah, that's amazing, actually. And all your kids are in it now, too, right?
A lot of them are. The boys mostly. The girls have shied away from that.
Sania just comes with you, and she's,
Yeah, she's she's just catching up on some conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
So I grabbed her. So I have to drive along. But
So what happened here today with Travis? Travis brings in a bunch of paintings for Dennis Ziemienski. We have a show that's coming up on the 18th of November. I didn't know Travis is coming in. Travis just pops in like usual. He shows up before it closes. I said, oh, my God, would you like to do the podcast? He goes, well, sometime. I go, well, how about this as being the sometime? And he looked at his daughter, hoping that she would say, don't, we got to go, Dad. And she goes, oh, no, we got time. So Travis just came in, and I've been out all day, too, so we both look like we've gone through a few things. But so those are the best podcasts, honestly.
good. That's why I like to hear that.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, they're spontaneous, and I wanted to have you on the show because I think framing is such an important part of what we do in this business as dealers, and people do not literally understand how important that is. And we trust your opinion. I've got a painting. I won't say which one it is, but I sent you that. You're going to give me some feedback, and I'm going to give you some feedback, maybe, or I might go, that looks great. So. 31 years of doing it. What's the most expensive painting you've ever had in there? Do you know?
It would probably be, I've framed quite a few Taos Founders, and I think I've heard prices on them, but I've also looked them up, and I think those and maybe a 40 by 50 Maynard Dixon was in the shop once. Yeah. We've had a painting that was an important painting from Hawaii that they said it was going on a hotel and supposed to be one of the most famous Hawaiian painters, and I valued it maybe close to $1 million.
Do you remember the name of the artist?
Gosh, I don't remember that one. Yeah. That was a unique one.
Yeah. How'd they find you? How does somebody in a Hawaii hotel find you to send their $1 million painting?
Well, that dealer is actually a Scottsdale dealer.
Oh, it was so a dealer.
So it was through a dealer.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, most of it's dealers and artists that get referred by dealers, or the word of mouth kind of just travels. I've never advertised, so it's all from somebody who heard.
Yeah, I've given your name out a bunch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, we're doing this podcast, but you really don't have any more room for more business, basically.
That's the dilemma. Is I work out of a pretty small shop because the goal wasn't to be a framer early on. It was to be an artist.
Yeah, we're going down that road, by the way.
And so, but size is a little bit of a restriction as far as our and then the skill it takes a long time for an artist to get up to speed,
right,
and to be valuable as a framer.
Right. So
that investment in time, and somebody who really wants to learn the trade, but yet once they learn it, it's why work for somebody? Yeah. Do it on your own. It's just an old school craft. It is. We're not trying to grow into an enormous business, but we feel like we could, if we really want it.
But you're limited, right?
We are.
Limited by the number of kids you got.
That's true. My 4 sons. They all help us out.
Yeah. So, that's part of it. And also, don't you do your own lumber too, don't you?
We do. Yeah. And so my sons, because they get paid well, but they don't get paid extremely well, I've offered them a business in milling to where they can just write their own ticket on that. And so they basically write me an invoice for what they think they're worth, and based on what the going rate is for wood. And so they make a handsome amount when they're working in the wood milling. So I kind of offer that to them, but it's after the 40 hours.
Yeah, that's
So they've got to
interesting.
work extra.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
we don't believe in the 40-hour work week, at least in the Humphreys
Yeah,
clan.
and I call that the art world. Yeah,
Our world.
yeah.
Exactly.
I never worked a 40-hour. I mean,
be
that's maybe on the first 3 days.
That's
But compared to being a doctor, it was still like, yeah, this is this isn't too bad.
right.
But yes, it does take a lot. So when they mill the wood, do they actually have you raise the trees, or do you get lumber and then you go mill it, or?
No, we buy the basswood, American linwood, from a company in Utah that gets it from the Midwest or wherever their source is, and we have them plane it on both sides, so it starts fairly square, and we order it in quarters and by the units. So it'll show up, we throw it into a cargo container, and then we just take it out and use the milling heads and different tools to make the shapes.
Yeah, but it still saves you, I'm sure, a huge amount of money by doing that.
It does. We used to order from a company in Los Angeles, and they're great, but shipping was becoming a nuisance.
Right.
And we just decided to get full control. I don't like waiting for anything, and artists don't either, so I try to keep control of as much as possible.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a pretty rare thing when a framer drives all the way down to Utah to drop off a bunch of frames.
I dropped off 14 to Josh Gibson too, so you didn't know about that. But
man,
I dropped it off to his parents' house.
Yeah, I got them both going. So,
Exactly.
So how did it all begin? Where'd you grow up? Utah?
I was born in Idaho, in Blackfoot, Idaho, and then we moved to Arizona when I was about 4. And I was raised in Arizona, but would move back and forth. My dad was kind of an entrepreneur, and so we lived in Idaho and Arizona mostly.
Where in Arizona were you?
I've lived in Yuma.
Oh, wow.
I've lived in Lake Havasu City.
Yeah.
I've lived in Page, and I've lived in Phoenix, where I graduated from high school. And so after leaving there, we went to BYU, my wife and I, both to get our degrees at Brigham Young University. And when we finished, we needed a place to be an artist and buy a house, and Provo was extremely expensive, so we ended up in Cedar City.
Yes. How far is that from Provo?
3 hours
Which way?
south.
South. So what's if you're on? Is that on the where exactly?
Right
is
on
that?
the I-17,
Okay.
right near Kolob Canyons. In fact, we can see part of the Kolob Canyons of Zion's from our house.
Oh, so very nice.
So we're about 10 miles west of Cedar City on Highway 56 as it goes out towards Enterprise.
Yeah.
So we live on the flat, high desert, 5,800 feet. So
Yeah. So that's kind of more like St. George weather, a little bit.
no, Cedar's a little bit tougher. We have 4 seasons, and it's a lot more extreme. Cedar City's more likely to have 20 below zero than to have 100 degrees. So we're on the colder side. At 5,800 feet or 5,900 feet towards Cedar City, we're cold.
Yeah.
And it's at that high plateau where it's a little windy too because it comes off the desert. Yeah. But we can be in St. George in 45 minutes, or we can be at the top of Brian Head Peak at 11,300 in about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's extreme.
Beautiful area.
It's gorgeous.
Just absolutely stunning. I know where that. I can't say I've been to Cedar City, but
You've been through it.
I've been to a bunch of St. George, and I've gone up to Salt Lake City and Provo, so I must have
You've driven through it.
and of course Dixon's, not far from there, Mount Carmel, and
Right.
so, and that's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
just over the mountain. And so when we were in Provo going to school, as an artist, I thought, where would be because I love painting landscapes. That's where
Right.
my passion is. And I thought, where would be the greatest place to live to paint landscapes?
Right.
And we looked, and I saw in a magazine that it said Cedar City was in the golden circle of national parks. And I thought, well, it's the biggest city inside of this 100-mile radius
Right.
of the most national parks in America. And I thought, that sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
And it has
actually.
a university, and it's probably going to be pretty cool. And it's closer to our family in Phoenix. So we just kind of headed down the freeway, and we found a place way out in the country where our kids could, play in the dirt and do stuff and ride their, BMX bikes and stuff. So there's where and it was cheap at the time. It was really
So
cheap.
I want to get back a little bit because we jumped right into college.
Yeah.
And I want to know a little bit more. So you graduated from high school in Phoenix, right?
Moon Valley High.
Okay. So during that time when you were growing up as a kid, we're talking, grade school, middle school, were you the artist? Were you doing a lot of that?
Yep. From the age of 13, my uncle is Jeffrey Craven, and he's a world-class watercolor gouache artist. And we used to go, as a 13-year-old, I would go to the George Phippen Memorial Show.
Sure.
Back in the 70s sometime, and I'd watch him sell out in about 5 minutes. Back in those days, Western art was hot, and he was good.
Yeah.
And gold medalist and all that kind of thing in that show. And so I'd go and watch the energy of that, and I was just addicted. And so one year, when I was about 13 years old, we went up to visit family over Christmas.
Right.
And I got my first watercolor lesson from my uncle, Jeff. And I still have that painting.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
It's a prized possession. And from there, I just tried to be like him. I just worked the watercolors like crazy, learned how to do it really well. And in high school, I won lots of awards and sold art to my principal. I sold art at the end of the school year, and I was just kind of like a hit, right? They even made a little medal at graduation of like the most outstanding artist when I graduated from Moon Valley High. And I won a Board of Regents art scholarship to the University of Arizona in art.
Yeah.
I didn't take it, which was kind of a poor choice, but I did go to BYU and got some art awards there and stuff.
And so why do you say it was a poor choice that you didn't go to U of A?
Because it was four years of tuition paid for.
Oh, I see.
And I didn't have that kind of scholarship at BYU, but I didn't have any friends here, and I just thought I was kind of a dumb kid and thought I'm just going to go where my friends are. And I had a friend or two at BYU, so I went there.
And you had
I had to pay the full way, pretty much, minus a few little scholarship. So.
And that's where you met your wife. You hadn't met her yet.
No, we were married before we went to BYU.
Oh, okay.
I met my wife when we were in high school. She's my high school sweetheart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've known her since she was 14. And
was she an artist as well?
No, not even. She loves art, but she's not an artist at all.
So you get the scholarship. You say, "No, I don't want all that free money. I don't need that. I'll go to BYU."
Do it the hard way.
And did you go in to get a BFA?
BFA in illustration.
Yeah, and did you?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, what happened then? I mean,
So
I know you ended up as a framer.
So before I even went to BYU, out of high school, I decided to follow in my uncle's footsteps and go to the George Phippen Memorial Art Show. Threw my hat in the ring, and in 1988 and 89, I won second place in watercolor.
Oh, wow.
Overall, as a kid.
Yeah.
And thought, wow, I'm doing pretty good. And so I went to school, and I was already recruited into the Wickenburg Gallery by Mark Forbes, and selling some paintings. And going to school, I thought, well, I'm going to be a fine artist, but here's all this illustration. And they say I'm pretty good, but I ought to move to New York or LA or something where you can actually work.
Right.
And I wasn't willing to do that with my kids. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to figure it out in the art world. That wasn't so easy. So I created a manufacturing business where we designed these really cool souvenirs. And that just kind of consumed our life for 10 years.
And what kind of souvenirs were they?
Have you ever been to the Strip in Vegas and been to like a store like Magnet Maximus?
Yeah,
where they have fridge magnets from floor to ceiling.
I know the type.
It's high-end souvenirs where we airbrushed and hand sculpted these really super cool little sunshines and fish and stuff like that.
Out of like wood?
Polyclay, the kind that you would bake in the oven. But then I had to go through the whole process of learning how to make molds and to cast them. Mm-hmm. So that started my whole background in understanding how to cast things and how to make things in 3D. Lots of processes, because we were always exploring manufacturing to see how we could do better at what we were making. But we always went back to the handcrafted thing because we just liked the warmth of the human hand. And I didn't want to send all my ideas to China.
Yeah.
So we just battled it out. I hired a lot of my friends from BYU when we were first starting, and we made a go at it. We had some big orders, so we thought we were going to be rolling in the dough because we had these $25,000 orders to make fridge magnets.
Right.
But Guam had that 8.3 earthquake that destroyed all the hotels, and that's where we did business because my parents lived in Guam at the time. And that kind of ended that. So we kept we took a trip up the West Coast and found some other suppliers and kept doing those fridge magnets. But the whole time I continued to paint because I was already in galleries. I knew I could sell paintings. I'd won some awards. And at BYU, when I was going to school, I'd gotten into the Society of Illustrators show as a student. Teachers kind of thought, they gave me lots of, hey, you're good at this. You're
Right.
probably one of the ones who can make it in this business
Yeah, right.
out of the very few that can.
Right.
Keep at it, but I don't know if you're going to do it from Utah. That was their...
It's hard.
It's very hard. And we had great teachers, everybody from, Dennis Smith and Greg Olson and Richard Hull and Robert Barrett and all these great teachers, William Whitaker. They were all teachers where we, got to get lessons from at BYU. And we watched their careers a little bit and just didn't know how to get to be that. But I tried.
So when you were painting, you got your degree, and you have this kind of moment where you go, am I an artist or am I making magnets?
Yeah.
That's a big decision.
It is.
What was the impetus that you go, I got to do this other and put my creative, I know the other's creative, but it's not the same. They're two different things. Put this on hold. I assume that's what you were thinking at that time. Maybe it's on hold, or did you go, I just can't make enough money with kids and everything to do it from Utah. I need something else.
There was that. 9/11 was a big inspiration because it shut that international tourism off for long enough. During that period, I thought, how am I going to make a living? I don't know. We're doing this and we're doing pretty good.
But is that with
Working
the
hard.
magnets?
Yes, with the magnets.
But at some point before that, you gave up painting.
It just wasn't enough. I was in galleries like the Meyer Gallery where I could sell.
That's a good gallery.
Oh, it's a great gallery in Park City. Susan Meyer was great. I was in the Wickenburg Gallery. I was doing the Fippen Show.
These were landscapes, mainly watercolor?
Yeah, all landscapes, pure landscapes. No, very few figures. Nothing in it. Maybe some wildlife a little bit. And I'd sold well, but not well enough to provide for four kids at the time.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
a lot. And I wanted to do more, and you just know that's just not working out. But I did the tent show in Scottsdale for 3 years and watched a lot of guys make significant money. And I'm thinking, I'm just not that kind of artist. I don't know how to paint big enough, bold enough. I just wasn't experienced enough.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit too pure. Like I was thinking, I got to say something more important. It isn't just about the dollar.
Right.
And so I had to kind of eat my pride on that a little bit. But,
But that's hard.
It is.
When you do that, then it changes that internal voice you have.
It does.
And you're going to battle that forever.
I know.
Yeah.
So after trying all these different things, I had worked at Allman Ricks when it became Krieger Ricks way back, and Marty Ricks ran the framing company there in Springville, Utah. And almost all the framers that I know, gosh, they came out of there. They learned how to do the framing from somebody who was there or they were there. And I learned with Gary Blackburn and I think a couple of other guys. It was really lean when they transitioned from Allman Ricks to Krieger Ricks. And I just learned the skills. Marty Ricks taught me.
But that was after the magnets, right?
It was kind of right before I graduated from BYU.
Okay.
I was working at Krieger Ricks.
I see. So you were learning already.
I just worked nonstop. We were working at home at night 24/7,
Right.
like trying to make ends meet, right? It's just a tough world.
How many
trying to be an
kids do
artist.
you have at that time?
At that time, 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then 2 more were coming. But
a lot.
And my wife, she got a family science degree, but she wasn't into the corporate world or didn't want to get a job and work. She needed to take care of the children, which I was 4.
Yeah.
And so it was up to me. And so I was just trying everything and anything to make ends meet.
Right.
So it was a battle. And but I had the framing experience. So when I was at the tent show doing art, trying to sell paintings, there were always artists complaining about, oh, this frame's too bright, or it's too this or too that, or it's got a cracked corner.
Right.
You know anybody who can fix it? It's like, just quietly, like, I know how. And I can refinish the whole thing really easy. And it was crazy because I was finishing frames in my parents' garage while I was doing the tent show.
Oh yeah, and that's like a 12-hour show, right?
It's like a 10-week show.
No, but I mean like 12 hours a day or
Oh,
something,
it
right?
can be as long as you want.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they had like cashiers and things there. But I never really made very much money at that show either.
Other than going around to the other artists, going, I can help you.
And I picked up a few customers, and then I got back home to Utah after the show, and it's just like, wow, what do I do now? I know how to make frames, and I can make magnets, but that's, and so we just limped along for a long time as I gathered artist buddies as frame to do frames for them.
Right.
And some of my very first ones were obviously my uncle, Jeffrey Craven, but he just did small watercolor work at the time.
Right.
And under glass. But Ryan Skidmore and Russell Case. Russell Case, I would probably say from Russell Case, almost everybody I do business with came from Russell in some way or another. He's like patient zero.
That's funny. He's such a great artist.
He's
too.
awesome. Yeah, and I remember him coming up to my shop, and he brought a load of wood from another artist or another framer who just gave up or went out of business or something. And he says, "Man, can you use this and can you make some frames?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can. Let's get it done." And so from there, it just branched out, and he'd go down to that Maynard Dixon Country show with the Binghams.
Right.
And from there, I mean, who the artists were at the time.
Yeah.
Wow, there was a bunch.
Yeah, and a lot of them are kind of local in that area too, which is good for you. Right.
Yep. And it just went from one to the next. And Ray Roberts and Ron Rencher and all these guys that we started framing for, they told friends, and it just turned into more and more people. And so my whole business now has been built on word of mouth, and we've had customers for 20 years, and they're still our customers.
And so when did you actually get the name for your business?
Really early on. I was thinking I got to come up with a clever name, because my magnet business was called C-Star. And I wanted, in the design world, I'd been taught what good logos and things, why UPS's thing works and other things. And so I thought, I got to come up with a really good thing. And I had C-Star for my magnet business, and I thought, I got to have something for my framing business. But I have to have it universal so I can use it for galleries or for everything, right?
Did you think when you were doing that, maybe I'll still do paintings or myself, or maybe even I'll show other artists?
Always. Yeah, because my company name is Gold River Gallery, and people say, well, isn't it Gold River Frames? And it's like, no, not really, because I kind of want it to be Gallery of Frames, but I've always wanted to be an art dealer. I love art to the point where I just love it. I see it every day, all day.
Yeah. So why don't you do that?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I know what good art is.
I'm sure.
And I know, from even watching Antiques Roadshow, flip it over, let's look at it and see if it's quality.
Yeah.
And let's see what the artist is about. And let's, I collect art. I've traded with almost everybody that I do business with.
Right.
At least some little thing.
Right.
And it's just been a passion. I just can't get it out of my system. But yes, I painted the whole entire time. And if anybody ever came to my studio and looked at the piles of hundreds and hundreds of studies and things I've done, I can paint in every medium you can imagine.
Right. So you can put your own stuff and get it back out there working as an artist as well.
I sold 5 paintings last month, but it's just in weird ways.
Okay. Yeah. But you don't sell them on your website, do you?
Through Instagrams, people hit me up on there, and I've sold hundreds of paintings over the years.
I'm sure.
And some of those clients, they come back and it's like, hey, I just remember me. I bought a painting 15 years ago. What do you? I saw something on Instagram. Right. You got anything? I'll send them some pictures and sell a painting. And thanks to family too, like family, extended family and friends. They all have things they purchase.
Better get your daughters involved in the gallery business, because you're going to need them.
Yeah, I tell them, it's like, hey, you guys could sell art. They love art, but they're not into it as much as me. I think they've steered away because they've seen it's a hard life.
Yeah, it can
It's like, maybe I don't maybe I don't want to have that rough. To be an artist, I tell them to be something else.
Yeah, well, to be an artist is very hard.
It's very hard.
Exceptionally difficult.
It is. And to be consistent.
Yeah.
Because I've seen artists really rise and been to shows that were magnificent, and then I'm painting side by side with that same artist at a plein air event, and he's not even selling his painting.
Yeah.
So
Why
you
is
just
that, do you
don't-
think?
I think people's tastes change.
Mm-hmm.
I think people collect art for different reasons, and you can't really control any of it.
Yeah. That's for sure.
I think I've talked to a gallery. I think one of my Park City gallery once said, you're just not the flavor of the month. You know?
Oh, God.
And so it's like I've sold,
Let's hope it's not that.
and I don't think, I think dealers and galleries should be very committed to the types of art that they sell,
Yeah.
that they love it and they're passionate about it.
Number one.
I tell everyone, if I'm ever going to be a dealer, I just want to buy the art outright,
Yeah.
because I have
Interesting.
enough faith that if I get stuck with it forever,
Yeah.
I'm as happy as possible. I'm happy.
No, that's true.
If I can sell it, great. And I love to rotate collections and just upgrade things that you maybe, like even in my own collection, there's pieces that I don't love that I used to like 25 years ago. I don't love them as much now.
Right.
But there's some that I love even more. So what is it about that?
You know, I use that as a marker in my own collection. If there's a piece that I just don't see or pay attention to anymore, I will let it go. But it's so rare anymore. It's just so honed in that, you know, there's very thin. I was looking the other day, I was like, I've got all these paintings. I'm like, no, I don't want to sell any of them.
Right.
Not one. I don't care. I may have multiples in
Yeah.
and you know, by the same artist, but they've made it home for some reason. So it's a little harder. And as for my gallery, I've always used the credo that if I wouldn't put it in my own home, I wouldn't represent them.
Yeah.
That it has to be that, you know, of that.
That's a good way to go.
It is, because and even when I'm buying for, you know, artwork that's not, you know, maybe deceased work, I still go, is this something I want to own myself? Not, can I make money on it?
Right.
There's a big difference between those. And I want the things I don't mind having and owning.
Yeah.
And it's a good way, for me, it's been a good way to really clarify what my direction is, what I have. And if I walk into the gallery, I go, yeah, I like everything. Even a little piece. I was like, oh, I like that piece.
Right.
That's why I have it. And your biggest issue, I think, from a dealer standpoint, if you do it, is location.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
Cedar City's a neat place, but I've tested the energy in Cedar City and put on shows with different developers, and we've done fairly well. When times were really good, we sold a lot of paintings because I can put together an excellent show.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
Where I curate it and say, look, every single painting that I've recruited here is worth collection.
Yeah.
There's no dogs in here.
Yeah.
And so those shows were really good. But Cedar, you know, there's just not a location that's really neat and appealing.
Yeah. And you got
Not yet.
Yeah. And how big is that city?
Very small. So
Yeah.
it'd have to be by destination.
I mean, how big is it?
It's about 35,000.
Yeah.
And growing quick, but it doesn't have, you know,
You'd be better off to be in St. George.
St. George has had more success and down through Springdale,
Yeah.
through the Zion's corridor, there's more.
Yep.
But they're very, very specific about what they collect. If you're in Zion, you're getting a Zion painting.
Yeah.
You don't want one of Cedar Breaks.
Yeah.
It's just not where you're
I
at.
get it.
So it's like rough. It's rough
Yeah.
where I live.
So now you've been doing this for 31 years as a framer. What changes have you seen in the frames? What you were making 30 years ago to maybe now? I mean, I've seen changes, things
Yeah.
just with mats and different things.
Oh, yeah.
Sizes, all this stuff.
Probably the first thing is it used to be very ornate 30 years ago.
Right. And big.
Big, ornate. Big, ornate. French. Let's go.
Yeah.
Big French, gaudy looking, impressive, right?
Right.
Everything's thinned down. Yes. Everything's very, I would say it has a little bit of parallel with economics, but not really. I think contemporary, the look of clean is very appealing. And as the designers in this country, I look at Art and Antiques magazine and other magazines that it's trending that way. Even though there's rusting involved, we love our rock and stone and things, and gold never goes out of style. We just use less of it.
What do you use instead?
Paint, wood.
Just wood color.
Yeah, just anything like. I think New York and LA have a lot of impact on us because they're big cities with a lot of energy and a lot of creativity. And smaller cities want to be like the cool people. And so I feel like a lot of people want to frame like New York or LA, which is clean, black, white, really thin.
And painted white even, you mean?
Yeah, just whatever. Or thin wood or something.
Right.
I think as the bigger significant work, it's quite a thing to ship big art, and I think there's a lot of factors that
It does
go
sure.
into. Yeah, we both know, right?
Yeah.
The UPS bill's enormous, but I think they've thinned down for a lot of reasons: ease in handling,
Right.
simplicity to change out. Cost, all of that.
Just wall space too,
Just wall
because
space.
There's only so much wall space, a lot more windows and things.
Exactly.
So if you get these huge paintings and you put a massive frame on it, it's heavy, it costs a ton to move, and you may not be able to find a home for it, even though it's great.
Yeah, it really aims in a direction, doesn't it? If you
does.
put it like I look at one corner ornament, and if it looks like a certain thing, people will define it. Hey, I want that stingray corner.
Yeah,
It does. It looks like a stingray in the ocean.
right,
It's like, well, that doesn't necessarily go in a southwestern home,
right.
in my opinion. I mean, it can, but probably in the French room or something.
Right.
I don't know. So there's really subtle things that really dictate where something will go. And so to keep it simple and universal seems to be the aim.
And how about gold? How many people are actually using gold in their frames, real gold?
Real gold
versus metal versus whatever.
I would say that when your art, I kind of have a 10% rule where most artists, I don't really think they should go past 10% of what the art would retail for on the frame. You're just not, that's not good business. So when an artist is selling, say at the Prix de West or in the master shows, or they've reached a level where their 30 by 40 is over $10,000,
Right.
they might stay with the karat gold because nothing beats it.
Yeah.
It's the connoisseur. It doesn't tarnish it on the East Coast.
And does it matter what carat it is?
No, because each one has a different color. There's the whites, and then there's the really warm color. So it's all about the temperature of the gold.
Yeah, and the painting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you try to, some people, I think it's more important to have the frame work for the painting no matter what.
Yes.
And then if it works in the home, great. That's how it should go.
Right.
If you're trying to match the couch or match the drapes, you're going about it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not a collector, you're a decorator.
Yeah. Those people come in occasionally to the gallery
They
looking.
do. Oh, yeah. Well,
with
and if
the
you can
swatches. And when I see a swatch, I'm like, let me just take you over to a $50,000 painting right now.
Exactly.
And then they might all the color goes out of their face. It's like, yeah, let me point you in another direction. I don't mind. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with matching a painting to what you want. I've got pieces I bought specifically for specific spaces.
Oh, absolutely.
But the painting was killer, and
Yeah.
and I would have put it somewhere else. But I have had, that will fit there. I can do it. But yeah, to do it, the frame to the color of the couch is
Well, that's going to change out. And if you're a really smart designer, you'd come through the galleries a lot and get kind of a visual inventory of what there is, because your mind should be able to work through your customers' needs, and you can go, come check this painting out. Let's see if you like this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when artists come to you, let's say a little bit on the younger side, and they come to you, how much guidance do you try to give them as far as trying to figure out what they should have for a frame style, for their types of frame, that kind of thing?
It kind of depends on what they know, where they're coming from first. I mean, some are really, they kind of know what they want, and they come to me because they've seen something I've done or they've seen. And it's like, hey, match this and let's make your own unique stuff.
Right.
And I'll steer them that way. I don't think I'm overbearing, but I have a super strong opinion. I'll let them know if they want it.
That's good. I think it's really important in a framer, honestly.
Yeah.
Those are the framers I trust and will give, and I give like, okay, I see that. You know, sometimes I go, I don't know about that. And I'll be, all right, well, tell me why and show me.
Yeah, and I mean, I keep wanting to learn more and more about frames because there's so many great historical framers that are just so good.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them going, wow, I'm a baby in this world. But I'm learning. And I've had, old time Eastern framers say, hey, who's going to be the next Newcomb Macklin or Childa Hassam or somebody? We need somebody who's not just replicating the past over and over. Right. Who's going to step up and be the guy? And so that's always in the back of my mind going, I love stuff that's been done because it's so beautiful. But add my spin. Try to add my little taste and signature to it.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think that's important for artists. I know you work with artists and go, okay, this is going to be your frame. I'm not going to reproduce it for X.
I do.
I know you do. I think it's important. I've told my artists it's important to get your own kind of frame design. That's. I mean, you look at somebody like Ed Mell. Ed Mell's had his same. Michael Carter's been the same framer for 40 years, and they've changed frames a little bit here and there, or whatever. But if you get an Ed Mell frame and you get rid of that, painting, you get rid of that frame, you're making a mistake. You should at least hang on to the frame, because it's important to have that with it. And I think that's the same with your frames. That when these artists get their own frame style, that they stick with it. I know Josh Gibson's doing that with his. I love his frame. I mean, Josh Elliott. He's one of the guys who really takes a lot of time to come up with things that he's envisioned, and I totally appreciate that. He pushes us to our limit. Yeah,
he's made us make some hard things. Yeah. Like we don't even know what we're doing, but we figure it out.
Yeah.
He's one. Others give me really a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if I mess you up and you're not happy, you never have to buy anything from me that isn't like you're happy with.
Yeah.
I'll trade it out. We'll do something with it. I'll paint a painting for it.
Yeah.
Put it on my wall.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's an advantage for you to be able to do that.
A little bit.
A lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you come from it from a different world. You're coming from it from a creative and I love art world versus I'm doing this because I can make a buck. Right. It's a different thing.
Oh, yeah. No, it would never be just for the money, because I think about shows where I'll be framing for maybe 5 to 8 artists in the same show and somewhat similar things, right?
Yeah.
And so this is why my business may not grow as fast as it probably should, is because it's in my head as to who I don't want them to overlap each other, but I want them all to shine, right? And to show off their thing and not look like, oh man, he has the same frame as me.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want that.
Yeah.
At least I try not to.
Same for gallerists, right? I turn down artists sometimes that are very good.
Too close.
But I was like, that's just too close to somebody that I have. And, even though it's different, you both have your own unique thing. It's just, that person's been with me for 25 years.
Yeah, I'm loyal to I've told lots of artists and probably offended a few people that I just said loyalty goes a long ways with me. Yeah. So if you veered off because you just want a different kind of creativity, I'm fine with that. But if it's just a shopping matter, it's like I'm going to take care of my artist like no one else.
Yeah. So where do you see this business heading? You've done it 30 years. You're getting older.
I know.
You got kids that are in the business, so hopefully they'll continue it. But where do you see this business going?
I'm hoping, as my sons, I have 2 sons that'll probably stay with it. I want to see if they want to take it into another realm, like if they want to ramp it up more and make something happen. But out of my 4 sons, 2 they all have great hands and high skill in what we do. They don't always water gild and do some of the finishing. I really do most of that. And I can teach them. And if I just don't know if they have the passion for it yet. If they do, go for it. Otherwise, I'm going to probably over the next few years need to recruit some real apprentices who have a passion for this.
Right.
And then hopefully send it on. I've done a few workshops where people have come to me privately and we'll work together for a week or so and they'll just do orders with me.
Yeah.
But I tell them, this isn't just for fun. You got to take this and do something with it. Either make money with it or use it to help a lot of artists. I'm not just going to give you the skills so you can just blow it.
Right.
That's not worth it for me.
Yeah.
And I'll give them every single thing. Take pictures of every can of paint. I'll give you every phone number.
Right.
right? But that's also a little distracting. So I enjoy teaching quite a bit. So maybe I will start teaching a little bit more and maybe sharing a lot of the stuff I do. If I can't get my sons to take it, I have lots of trade secrets that I keep pretty close.
Yeah, understandable.
And supplies and things that have taken a long time to develop.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to develop a paint right now that hopefully will solve something for me. And I've developed a couple of others that are their tricks to the trade.
Right. Do you think frames and will in 20 years will still be a viable business, or will they all be on your phone as an NFT? I mean, that would be my biggest fear if I was a framer, is it's digital.
You know what's crazy is every week I think, what if nobody orders any more frames, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe this isn't a thing anymore. And then the orders are 3 times more than I ever imagined, and I have to turn a couple customers away. Have you ever seen a house without any art on the wall?
Oh God, I've seen tons.
It's horrible, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have art, it's very addictive. So I'm just crossing my fingers that people experience the art from their parents and don't just toss it.
Yeah.
And that they continue on. I think it's an slightly addictive thing once you start collecting art.
Very.
And it doesn't take too many to keep us all moving along, but it does make sure that the art has to be really good, because I mean, lean times really weed out the poor artists.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could also have these houses that have big pieces on them, but they're all digital with no frame.
I know.
Affects me too, unless I'm doing digital art.
Right.
But, it's changing all the time. They get to see they're buying NFTs. They own that. They own that. And there are all these images on a, this is my portfolio. And you can't just say, well, that couldn't happen, because go look at your phone and you're doing this all day long.
Yeah.
As well as a little 8-month-old.
Right.
So it's ingrained.
There's going to be changes.
There will be changes. I think, personally, I think it'll still be a very viable business. I think there'll be, the cream of the crop may raise up, because the people that are the best, it's the power rule, which is 20-80. The people that are the top have 80% of the business, but they're only 20% of those people. So, those, I think people will do well. But there may be a coming to Jesus kind of moment for the framers that are just kind of on the, the lesser end and not doing the custom work, I think.
I think I was looking at the PFM framer, or maybe it wasn't that. It was just a stat or something on how many companies there were pre-COVID.
Yes.
Active, like frame shops in a strip mall. And they decreased by many thousands, like from 8 to 2 or something nationwide.
Yeah.
So for that, that makes you a little bit nervous. And as I hear about suppliers, because I still overlap into the world of Larson Jewell, and I work with other people in the framing world that do matting and things like that for me. Right. And they'll tell me what's available and what's not, and what's constantly discontinued.
Right.
And so supplies are getting more and more limited. That makes me very nervous, because even right now in the gilding world, where the genuine gilders need a clay from Europe to make the bowl that goes under to the gold leaf, it's becoming almost unavailable, or $200-300 a kilo for a little lump of red dirt. Yeah,
is that because they can't get it? The supply chain's clogged up, or there's just less of it?
I think it's in mines and plate. I've heard that bigger companies have bought the mines that produce it, and they just don't have any interest in getting it for the art world. Yeah. It's not enough money for them.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's just, and so I think what will happen with framing is it's changing its base structure. So you get frames that are made out of plastic composite and expanded foam, and things like real wood's like kind of rare. Like environmentalists don't want us cutting any wood, and it's like, well, then what are we going to make it out of? Because not everything could be plastic. Right. Well, I don't want it to be plastic. Yeah, maybe it shouldn't too. There's issues there too. There is, and the glues that you have to use to put it together. I'm not a fan of that. I love old world skill, and I believe things have been solved that may not ever solve better than they've been solved.
Yeah.
So
Well, if I were in your business, I think I'd go buy a bunch of that clay up.
I have.
Yeah, I'll be the first thing I do. I was like,
So-
I think I'm going to try to corner the market on that clay, so I don't ever have to worry about my business, even
Right.
if I have to overpay, or it looks like I'm overpaying. I
Right.
can't afford not to be able to
Right.
put the red clay underneath for my gilding.
Right. And so that's one of the projects I'm kind of working on a little bit and hoping that a manufacturer can help me with that. But we're dealing with foreign, Germans and other nationalities and hoping they can help us out. And it's
Right.
not the easiest process.
Right. How big is the framing industry? Do you know? In billions? It's got to be multi-billions. Worldwide.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know that figure.
Yeah.
But even if there isn't any more art, there's still frames on mirrors.
Yeah.
I just framed a television the
Yeah,
other day.
sure.
So, and a very creative idea in that they did a water gilt 23 karat gold gorgeous frame to register exactly on their flat screen TV so that they could have a Monet
That's
or,
right.
or whoever up on this screen just because they love art and don't want a TV screen.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I hope that isn't everywhere in the whole house for art. I think the textile, like the texture and everything in a painting is what makes them so neat. But
Again, though, but you may people are going to come from a different world,
They are.
digital.
They are.
So NFTs are,
Yeah.
going to continue to have,
Some impact.
importance. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see how that. I don't think it'll affect you at all because you're in the top 20, of all the framers in the country. So, that they always do well. It's just a matter of how big you can get and,
Right.
How
hard you want to work.
right.
We've worked, I kind of brag a little bit, but during the COVID time where a lot of people shut down, we gained so many customers, we couldn't believe how busy it got during that time.
You also had wood.
We had wood, yeah.
That's a big deal.
And the price, happily, some things are coming back down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Labor's not,
No.
and neither are some other things, so it kind of has stabilized. I don't think that's going to get worse, hopefully.
Yeah.
But paint and things like that, anything that requires petroleum base, anything has gone very expensive.
Yeah,
you can't buy a
sure.
gallon of anything for under $100
Right.
anymore.
And do you try to gauge that? Do you try to mitigate your cost by going, okay, seems low now, I'm going to buy a ton or do you just go, I'm running out, I'm going to go get it now?
I do, and so I think stocking raw commodity is good, like raw wood
Yeah.
that isn't milled into anything, because as styles changed, I still have some unique profiles that I made 25 years ago still on the rack.
Yeah.
They're not getting used.
And there's any way to reuse those at all anyway or for
There
fashion?
is. Some are odd because they're such a crazy shape you can't really remill them.
Right.
But a lot of shapes, yes, you can remill them, and so it's like you can run them back through and make a different shape. But shellac and gold and all of that, I don't think you can ever go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's a commodity, and like I order gold from New York about every week or whatever. You always call and ask the price, like how we
Right.
doing? It's never exactly attached to the actual spot price of gold. They buy in big quantities and then it
Sure.
rolls back and forth. So you don't want to overbuy, but you don't want to underbuy either.
And you're buying sheets of gold, right?
They're boxes in like 500
Yeah.
leaves in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever take a little bit of it and put it on your food to eat it?
You can at about 23 or 24 carats.
Yeah, I
you can.
know.
I don't know if it tastes very good.
Yeah. It has a little taste of it.
I think I probably have it in my bloodstream by now because
Prob-
I've laid so many. There's probably a few people in America that have laid more leaf than I, but I don't know who it would be.
Yeah.
Like hand water gilded box. I have trash bags full of 23 karat gold boxes. I laid every leaf,
Yeah.
like trash bags, 55-gallon bags of boxes.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you very quick too, comparatively, because I've watched it being done. I can see how difficult it is. I think I even tried it once just to see, and I was like, "Oh, this is super difficult." It's not
Did you
that
use
easy.
the squirrel hair and everything and
used
try to
it.
pick it up?
Yeah, the whole thing. It was very difficult.
So my lineage in leafing comes from Marty Horowitz.
I think I was with Marty that I actually was doing this with, because I used to go in and watch Marty.
Okay, so Marty taught Marty Ricks.
Yeah.
Marty Ricks taught a kid named Troy, and I learned from Troy
I
and
see.
Gary Blackner, but we don't use a gilder's tip.
Yeah.
I've never used a gilder's
Yeah.
tip in my whole life.
Yeah.
I've tried it and thought, that's kind of weird, that squirrel hair thing.
Yeah.
I do it like a deck of cards.
Uh,
And if you watch most people, if they take a booklet of leaf and cut it and try to lay it, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So I kind of have fun with that, thinking I've done it so much. It's
sounds like a YouTube video to me.
it'd be fun. I'm going to probably make a few more little videos.
That'd be good.
But,
Well, I know, first of all, I snagged you and you're heading back to Phoenix today.
Yeah.
And so it was super kind of you to just do this because you've been on my radar for a while. We've talked about this. So is there anything else you want to share and maybe share your website, your Instagram account, those kind of things too for people that can find you?
no, I just appreciate you having me in here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have talked about it.
I
I come in
know.
your gallery and I could spend hours in here.
Yep.
And it's a joy. I'm thankful that you're in the gallery and art business because people like you make this work. And then all the people who have a love for art. And I thank every collector who collects art because it makes a lot of families and a lot of people move about their lives.
That's true.
And so for me, it's like I'm just super grateful. And this is a good business. It's a business I get to work with my family, and hopefully it'll, bless other people. And
Yeah. And you're still painting and doing stuff.
yeah, I'm painting more and more, and that was the goal. And now that business is as it is, I have time and enough money to afford to paint. And if
Right.
my paintings don't sell, it's
Doesn't matter as much.
yeah, I don't have to worry about some payments and things. So that's super exciting. My wife and I, we've blood, sweat, and tears for years to get to this stage right now.
And can they see your paintings on your Instagram account?
They can, yeah, and it's all under the Gold River Gallery,
Yeah.
hashtag Gold River Gallery. My website, I am in desperate need to redo the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
But the way when people call me and say, hey, can you make frames? Your website's not working very good. I just tell them, we've moved more into a design. We're frame designers now.
Yes.
I'm not manufacturing and repeating things over and over.
Right.
I've never wanted to be that.
Right.
We make frames for art. So let's see your painting and let's come up with a good frame for your painting. And I'll come up with something. You come up with something, and I'll be your hands, whatever.
Yeah. That's the creative part for you.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah.
Something brand new every time. I'm okay with.
Yeah, you're making sculpture basically.
Right. So for your piece that we're working on,
Yeah.
it's like I have some ideas in my head, and it's like I wonder if Mark will like these.
I'm looking forward to
We're
it.
gonna
I'm an open book. It's like, let me see what you got.
Cool.
Yeah, very much.
So
All right, Travis, I'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much, Travis Humphreys. Thank you for taking the time and energy. I know it was I really literally grabbed you.
It's like, hey, man.
It's like I just drove like 8 hours, man. Can you give me a break? So, but that's what the fun of it,
Yeah.
That's why this podcast is kind of cool sometimes.
And we'll be back.
All right, very good. All right,
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks. All right, bye-bye.
See you.